Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to be talking about the so-called red leather library. I did an In the Wild video not too long ago, and I totally missed that there was a red leather dark half at the bookstore. And only when I was producing the video later did I notice that book. So I went back to the bookstore. The book was still there. I did not purchase it, so I don't have it to show, but there's going to be a lot of pictures and a lot of information about the red leather library in this video. So I'm doing this intro, and then I'm going to cut over to my video from the other day at the bookstore. And because I didn't have all the facts, I didn't have all the figures and the historical data while I was at the bookstore, I'm going to cut back to me here at the house with facts and figures and data in hand to wrap the video up. So hopefully this will be a one-stop shop of everything you need to know about the red leather library. So last time I was here, I did a video where I showed the stacks in the row of books, and I didn't even see this. I missed it. And only later when I was doing my video and editing it, did I see this. And I was like, what the heck? It was right there before my eyes and I missed it. So it even goes to show that people who routinely go to bookstores and search for things in the wild can easily miss things that are right before their eyes. But anyway, I came back today. The book is still here. This is what's known as the red leather edition, although it's probably faux leather. It does feel like leather. And it is from the Stephen King Library. I need to do a little bit more research. This is going to be part of a bigger video about the Stephen King Library, the red leather library. And this is, of course, the dark half. So inside, the Endpapers kind of feel like some kind of legal paper, textured, kind of fancy. The copyright page, I would have expected some language about book club or book of the month club, and I don't see that here. It still says first published in 1989 by Viking Penguin, so I need to compare this side to side with a true first edition and see what the differences are. Yeah, but anyway, this was a subscription service, Stephen King Library, at some point in the 80s, 90s perhaps. By the time I joined the Stephen King Library, probably in the early to mid 2000s, the books that I was receiving every month were just cheap reprints with the original artwork, which I was kind of disappointed by because I was expecting these red books, but ultimately was fine with, because I don't know, these are cool and everything, but I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of the look of these in retrospect. I've seen people have shared pictures of their collections where they have the entire run of these, which was multiple dozen books, and it's just like this red monolith, all, every book exactly the same, and for some reason that just doesn't appeal to me as much as the unique spines of every book jacket. But anyway, even if the copyright page looks identical to the first, the cover gives it away, dead giveaway. They didn't do the entire run of books in the red leather, but there were several dozen. I'm going to do a little bit more research on that and then make this part of a bigger video about the red leather library, because it does come up from time to time. And I'm so glad this book was still here. I was just kicking myself watching the footage from the other day, and I was like, what? It was right there, and I didn't even notice it. But luckily it's still here. This book is priced at $15, and it has been here for 5.5 months. So even at $15, nobody has picked this up. Depending on the title, some of the books can be a little bit more valuable depending on condition. Some people absolutely adore these and find them very collectible. $15 is probably overpriced for this one, although I did look it up on eBay and I saw one sold for $10. That was nicer than this, and then there were others that sold for $30 to $40, so it's hard to tell. If you have the entire collection, it can demand a premium, but then again, you have to have space and desire for like 50 identical books all together in a row on your shelves. But anyway, more information to come, but I did want to come back and try to capture this while I could, and I will be right back.
And now a word about our sponsor.
Since 2001, The Collector has been a cornerstone resource of the Stephen King collecting community, providing information about remarks, manufacturing and selling slipcases to protect your cherished titles, providing forums where you can connect with like-minded collectors, and providing information about all the books a collector could possibly be interested in, from limited editions to first editions and all the other editions to boot. Additionally, The Collector provides up-to-the-minute information and exciting news about everything Stephen King, collected from all over the internet. StephenKingCollector.com. Go check it out. You'll be glad you did.
Okay, so I didn't have all the information in hand or in my head that I needed to fully flesh out the story of the Red Leather Library. So I've done some research, and unsurprisingly, because it's such a tremendous resource for so many things, the main, most beneficial resource that I found is the Stephen King Collector website itself. Buried deep in the forums is a conversation from 15 years ago now, all about the Red Leather Library. So here's what I found. All in all, there were 37 titles released in the Red Leather Library. The last one, as far as I can tell, was From a Buick 8, which came out in 2002. So I'm not exactly sure when the series started. However, one important clue is that the Red Leather Library contains both the complete and uncut stand, which came out in 1990, as well as the original version of the stand, which is the one that was commercially available prior to 1990. So to me, that's an indication that the Red Leather Library began at some point in the 80s and it ended in 2002 or shortly thereafter. Additionally, I found some more information which I thought was really interesting and helpful. So I'm actually gonna quote from the website itself. Everything in the Stephen King Red Leather Library are reprints or book club editions up until Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Nightmares and Dreamscapes was the first title to use a first printing text block. So when I saw the Dark Half at the bookstore, the big difference is that the original, of course, has a number line, and the first edition includes the number 1, and the Red Leather text block has no number line at all. So for the titles released up to 1992-ish, it doesn't really matter. The Red Leather Library, it is what it is. But for those who are very, very detail-oriented and interested in collecting very specific releases of certain titles from Nightmares and Dreamscapes on, it is possible to look at the number line used on the text block and get a first edition text block bound in the red leather boards. Apparently, there were different later printing text blocks also used for the Stephen King Library. So you might find like Bag of Bones or Dreamcatcher in the Red Leather Library and open it up, and the number line would end with 2 or 3 or 4, indicating that it's a later printing text block and not the first edition text block. The ones that are most rare are the titles from Bag of Bones onwards. So basically the titles, the Scribner titles, even though they're the newer books, they're the more rare Red Leather releases. And the two most collectible are Storm of the Century and Secret Windows. Both of those were the first releases anywhere, were book club editions anyway, so you don't really gain or lose anything getting the book club edition red leather versions of these books, because they were already book club editions to begin with. So in some ways, the red leather editions are simply the nicest or most premium bound editions that exist of those two titles. So those two in particular are the real gems of the entire collection. So yeah, 37 total titles. That's one mighty long wall of red on your shelf if you're interested in trying to collect an entire complete set. And it includes every Stephen King release from Carrie through From a Buick 8. It includes Thinner, the Richard Bachman title, but it doesn't include any of the other Bachman books. And in terms of pricing, it's really all over the map. So this thread that I'm referring to is from 2009, so 15 years ago. And this person says, in a good economy, if people have money burning holes in their pockets, so like maybe the COVID economy, for instance, when nobody was going anywhere or spending money on entertainment and just buying stuff like crazy, Carry through Night Shift would be worth 40 to 50. Dead Zone through Tommyknockers would be worth 25 to 35. Misery through Dolores Claiborne, so 87 to early 90s, would be 15 to 20. Nightmares and Dreamscapes through Desperation, assuming they are first printings from the text block, would be 25 to 35. Bag of Bones through From a Buick 8, so the last several years, the Scribner years, would be worth 40 to 80. And Storm of the Century and Secret Windows are the two special ones, would be worth 90 plus. But from my experience, even just the last few days, checking on eBay, checking on different retailers online, the prices for these are all over the place. A lot of people aren't interested in collecting them at all because they're just so monochromatic and so plain, just red down the line. So the copy of The Dark Half that I saw at the bookstore that was $15. It needed some work. It had a bumped corner. It would take quite a bit of work to get that sticker residue off. It probably was a decent price, but it had been there for several months and nobody had bought it. So maybe that one was overpriced. Maybe people didn't recognize what it was. But it's an interesting additional avenue for your collecting hobby to kind of have the red leather library in the back of your mind and be looking for good deals in the wild. So especially from Bag of Bones on, or if you ever happen to find a red leather Secret Windows or Storm of the Century for good prices, I don't know, 10, 20, 25 bucks, those are good deals and those are worth picking up. So I have seen entire runs, all 37 titles, come up as a lot in the past, and it's usually easily four figures, 1,200, 1,500, even more, depending on the condition and whether or not the first edition page blocks were used for the later titles. So you could go two ways. You could try to individually find the books, collect them, add them to your collection, and you might be able to come out with a better overall total cost. Or if a lot ever comes up, it's been a while since I've noticed a full run of the red leather titles come up together. But if it did, and you found the 37 books together for, I don't know, $1,500 or less, $1,200, $1,300, that's per book, probably a decent deal. You could probably, if you had the entire run, you could probably sell them for $2,000, depending on if you found the right buyer. But from a buyer's perspective, it might be easier, because the full runs don't come along all that often, to look for individual titles. To me, the one that doesn't usually stick out from the group, but which I think is the most interesting, is the original cut of The Stand. I think it's really cool that you could have the original and the complete and uncut side by side in a nice matching pair in the red leather library. And I'll admit, going through all the research and thinking so much about the red leather library, I'm kind of partial to them now. I kind of think they're cool. I kind of think they're interesting, but oh my goodness, I only have so much shelf space. And if I replaced everything behind me with just a wall of red, I don't know. I think taken individually, they can be really interesting, but taken as a mass, I just think It's just too much of the same. That's my opinion. What is your opinion about the Red Leather Library? Are you familiar with these releases? Have you collected them? Do you have the entire set? Tell me your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments. I really appreciate it. So thanks as always to channel sponsor Thomas over at StephenKingCollector.com. This video would have been much harder to make without the wealth of knowledge that is saved and searchable on Thomas's website. That's what it's all about. That's why I'm so happy to promote and support Thomas in my videos. But yeah, anyway, thanks to Thomas and thank you to you, the viewers, wherever you are. I hope you have a great rest of your day and I will talk to you later. Bye.